The bookstore wasn't supposed to be open that late. The sign on the door clearly said it closed at 9, but the lights were still on, and the door opened when she pushed it gently. Inside, the air smelled like paper and dust and something faintly sweet, like old wood. The place was quiet, but not empty. A few people stood between shelves, moving slowly, as if time worked differently here. She wandered without purpose, fingers brushing spines, reading first lines instead of covers. The silence felt intentional, protective. Somewhere near the back, someone laughed softly, then apologized to the room out of habit. She smiled without looking up. Bookstores do that, they make strangers feel familiar without needing names. He was standing on a small ladder, reshelving books too high to reach comfortably. She noticed him because he looked concentrated, careful not to rush, like each book mattered. When one slipped from his stack and landed near her feet, she picked it up and handed it back. Their fingers touched briefly. Nothing dramatic, just acknowledgement. They talked quietly between shelves, about books they never finished, about stories that stayed longer than expected. He admitted he liked closing shifts because the store felt truer when it wasn't performing for customers. She said she came to bookstores when she needed to think without being watched. The conversation moved easily, wrapped in paper and quiet. As the night stretched on, the store emptied further. Eventually, it was just them and the sound of pages turning. The owner passed by once, nodded, and turned the sign on the door to closed, but didn't ask her to leave. It felt like permission rather than oversight. When she finally stepped back outside, the street felt louder than before. They exchanged names, numbers, small smiles. Nothing was promised. Nothing needed to be. The bookstore had done its job, offered space for something to begin without forcing it. Later, she would think about how rare that kind of meeting was. No screens, no urgency, just two people sharing quiet curiosity. Sometimes, the best connections start in places where voices are lowered and time is allowed to stretch. She didn't expect to see him again so soon, but 2 evenings later, she found herself standing in the same aisle, pretending to read a summary she didn't care about. He noticed her immediately, not with surprise, but with the calm recognition of someone who had already placed her in the rhythm of the space. He smiled, stepped down from the ladder, and asked if she'd found what she was looking for. She said she wasn't sure she ever did in bookstores, and he laughed softly, like he understood exactly what she meant. They didn't talk constantly. That was part of what made it easy. Sometimes they stood near each other reading, exchanging comments only when something felt worth sharing. Other times they talked longer, about how books can become markers of different versions of yourself, about how rereading something years later feels like meeting an old friend who has changed less than you have. The store wrapped around those conversations, absorbing them without interruption. Over the next weeks, her visits became less accidental. She learned his schedule without asking. He learned which sections she gravitated toward. He started setting aside books he thought she might like, leaving them on a small table near the back with no explanation. She responded by bringing him coffee from the place next door, never asking how he took it, just guessing and adjusting over time. It became a quiet exchange of attention. One night, rain started unexpectedly, tapping against the windows in uneven rhythms. The store felt even more sealed off from the world than usual. When closing time passed, neither mentioned it. The owner locked the door and left them inside with a casual wave, trusting the space and the people in it. They sat on the floor between shelves, backs against opposite cases, talking about choices they almost made and paths they didn't take. The conversation didn't feel heavy, felt honest. When the rain finally slowed, they walked outside together. The city washed clean and reflective. Streetlights shimmered on wet pavement. They stood there for a moment, not in a hurry to separate. He said the bookstore changed at night because it stopped trying to sell anything. She said people did too. The words lingered between them. They didn't rush into anything after that. They let the connection stay rooted in the place where it had started, quiet, observant, unforced. Whatever it would become, it would grow the same way books do in that store. Slowly, deliberately, waiting for the right hands to open it again.